What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. If you're new around here, my name is Lamont. I've been trading full time for 6 years now. I'm a part of the Chart Guys community where I head up the futures room and, of course, the swing report along with Dan, Lori, and Joey. And this week we're going to be looking at what I still believe to be the best setup. It played out for us again, and I'll share some how we played it this week with one of the same picks that we talked about last week, Peak. And also, we will take a look at some trade ideas where we can potentially use this same exact setup in the near term. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so for Peak, if you'll recall, what I ended up doing at the end of last week was, I don't remember if it was subscribers only. No, it should have been in the video as well. So I ended up just closing out that Peak position at the end of the week because I was late to the party here. Like, I was busy on this day, so I couldn't trade the setup, which was the ideal setup, which was here, looking for that selling the open after you fail to get back over the point of control of this session, because then that daily lower high is probably set. I missed this day, so I came in late here, took some profits, and then seeing this day on Friday, I didn't have confidence in follow through, which was ended up being a good call because it would have just been stopped out on Monday anyway. So that being said, on Wednesday, the 11th, we pushed out an alert. It's still early in the day, but Peak has the potential to have a session to session setup tomorrow, looking for a daily lower high if an open under today's POC tomorrow. Right, so that was on October 11th at 10:13 a.m. And the reason why I said it was still pretty early in the day because at that point in time, it's really hard to say, right? They closed really strong too, but at 10:13 ish or so, there was some weakness in there. Now, at the end of the day, I must admit, it didn't really look like that setup was going to present itself. However, you just never know. You just really never know in the market. And a reminder that the reason why we're interested in this name for a sell is because it's in Black Dirt Breakdown, right? And the sector is certainly not. I mean, the sector is not doing so well, XLF, but it's certainly not in Black Dirt Breakdown. So notable weakness within this name, which is why we were looking for it, for sells here. So again, October 11th, that's this session. The context is there for a potential daily lower high to be set under 18.66, and so we push out that alert. If you want these alerts in your email inbox or sent to your quick update dashboard on our website, which is currently being revamped, give this swing report a shot. Dan's a contributor, Laura's a contributor, Funk is a contributor. That's Joey, Jungle Funk. Links in the bottom of the comments. But anyway, that's that. So yeah, so let's take a look at these updates here. Where after this session, we say okay, and then on 9:37 on 10:12, I say, all right, we sold the pass back under the open. That's actually a typo. There wasn't a pass under the open. I thought there was a little small wick here, but at this point in time, I was also day trading futures. You could just go into the. I mean, I could probably find it. I could very easily find it. What day was this? The 12th, October 12th. So, and October 12th on this day, I'm also at the same time as this is just 7 minutes in, and if you're in the futures room, then you already know. But here I am. Let's see here. This is it. This is that day here, October 12th. Here we go, October 12th. So this is just that thread in October 12th. That's the thread over here. And this is what I was doing at the same time, trading the open for the futures as well. So a little bit late to the party again. So I probably put this trade on maybe just a minute or so before pushing out the alert. It takes me some time to execute the trade and then pop over and take out the alert. But if you'll notice, at any given time, or rather any time before, let's see, at really any time before like 10 a.m., right? Because 10 a.m. is really where this candle breaks down. Here, I'll just show you like this. At any point here, so that alert went out at 9:35, so that's somewhere in this candle. 9:37, so that's somewhere in this candle. Okay, you still have like 20 minutes to decide if you wanted to take that trade because the open is here. I could have swore it looks like there's a little wick, but it must have been just how I marked it. Either way, the idea was we opened up under the point of control. This high had the potential to be a daily lower high. So if we don't see any buying off of the open, or if we see buying off of the open that does not really get anywhere, and then we roll right back down under it, okay, that's the go sign for the seller. So I just sold the sold at, I don't know whatever 9:35 or whatever. I forget what time it was specifically, and the risk was only, it was less than 1% at any given time. When you're in here, right? As long as you're before 10 a.m., your risk to reward with your stop over the open and target your first target, the mid 17s, which is what the alert said, is about 1.5 R, right? So if you have a better than 50%, even less, right? Like 40%, there you'll be fine with a 1.5 R. And that's just to get positioned, right? Once we get positioned, then we can see, how that all shakes out. So you'll see in the alerts, okay, we sold it. We're looking for the stops over the high of the day, looking for partial profit and taking in the mid 17s, right? And so that's everything that you need to know for a trade, and and you have a whole day to be prepared for it. And you know what this setup is. It's the same session to session setup that we talk about all the time, the same setup from last week that I think is the best setup. So you have everything that you need to. That's our goal, at this Sterling Report and we're trying to accommodate everybody, not just people who are, looking to scale in over a longer term, but like bigger trades or like weekly trades or whatever, but also people who are more active who are trying to get those, those longer term trades as well. So that's what the alerts are primarily for, and also we use it for management, right? Once the trades get going. So that's pretty much it. And then later on in the session, because I said we're looking for partial profit taking the mid 17s. Later on in the session, 10:45-ish or so, I say, okay, we took partial profits to 1750, and the reason for that is just because there's a bunch of volume traded here. Right? You see all this trading was done here. There's a big block of volume here. If we're going to take profits anywhere, it should be there, right? Excuse me, it's over here. This one, this top one here. And then the next day, just making sure you can see this. And the next day, we just take a little bit more, take more of the remaining position off here. That was at 11 a.m., right? The reason being, because now we're at this high volume area, right? So you sell this open, your risk is never much. You take a chop here, you take a chop here, and now we are sitting very pretty, right? We don't really care what happens now. Even if we get stopped out, it should be a small win. Ideally, however, of course, it keeps drilling. Ideally, we see a lower low, but you don't know that. There is still space for a higher low to be set over 16.89. So there you have it. Yet again, the what I think is the best setup. It brought us another trade, right? It continues to be fruitful. So let's look at some other tickers now to see if maybe we can use that setup in the near term. So the first one I'm looking at is Roku. Roku is one of our busted trades. It never came into our trade zone here, but obviously it was a good candidate for weakness. And this was kind of tricky because the weekly lower high technically has been set here, because we've already we bounced for a lower high and then we broke the prior candle's low. So technically the weekly lower high has been set here at 75.45. But at the same time, you don't have a daily lower high and lower low to have confidence that that weekly lower high has been set. So, and there's also a lot of space, again, under 75.45 for a daily lower high. So ideally what the sellers want to see from here is a daily lower high, a move back up to here that doesn't take out this high, and then a lower low. That's exactly what they want. A drill down to 37 bucks. And then another lower low, because if we do see that on the daily time frame, then on the weekly time frame, that we'll probably just see more pressing here. And if we're going to see more pressing on the weekly time frame, that's just some Elliott wave stuff. If we see some more weekly pressing on the weekly time frame, they should be trying to come to these lows and then come to here next. Right? So there's the potential for this to be a decent swing, because right now we would just expect more balance, right? Because if we're not going to get over here, right, then we should expect to test here. So if we're going to stay under this high, which is the highs of this structure, as long as we're staying under this high, the seller should be trying to get to the lows of the structure. So if we can position here for a daily lower high and then we lower low, the odds of getting to like the up like 56-ish should be pretty good. All right, so how are we going to use that setup that we know and love? We want to see a daily bounce. And then the first time that there's an open under the point of control is when we should look for that same session to session setup. Okay, so some homework for you. There's a bit of an opportunity, but it's you can practice it, right? You don't have to actively trade if you're not comfortable, but practice it. Look at wait for the context, and then identify the context the day before, right? And recognize that if we're still looking for a daily lower high and we see an open the next day under the point of control, That's the appropriate context, and then take a shot. Oracle is another one that is we are already in, right? Because we took that play, I think, here and here, right? Or here and here, I forget. Either way, the stop for the runners should be no later than here, 111.58. So they barely missed that stop. And if you look on the weekly time frame, also it's looking for a potential lower high to be set with a lot of space to do so under 127.42. And so what you'd like to see, and you did get a little rinky-dink daily lower high and lower low. It's not very convincing right now, and this structure down here remains key as long as this structure is supportive and the buyers are doing okay defensively. But if you are looking for that weekly lower high to be set, then ideally what we'll see is a little press, some more pressing, right? And then look for that lower high, and then look for that session to session play there. I only include this now because the Oracle pick, not because it's in an ideal time for that setup, but because people are still in it from when we shared that idea publicly last month or whatever. So if you're still in that, that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for an ad, then ideally you'll see some more pressing on the daily time frame first, and then a bounce that's likely to set a lower high, and then again look for that session to session setup. You don't need a lot of different setups. Especially as a swing trader, you don't need to trade that many setups. If you're a day trader, I guess that makes sense, right, to have more setups. And to be honest, even as a day trader, my day trades are pretty much just this one setup, because if I crush it on the open in futures, it can, it's a good trade. It's because there's so much leverage in futures. And additionally, I have one play that I like to run in the middle of the day as a continuation play, either a continuation or a responsive play, depending on the context of the day. But that's it. You just really need a few setups, right? You just need to be consistent. Like the best companies in the world, they don't offer you the best products or the most products, right? They don't do that. Like that would be absurd. They just offer you consistent products. Right? That's how they find their success. When you go to McDonald's, it's not the best food, and they don't offer you every single kind of food, right? But every single time you go to McDonald's, they give you the same thing. Or you should they more or less, right? And if it is not good enough, right? If it's not close enough to what you expect, you call corporate and they will sort it out for you, because they know what they sell. They sell consistency. So you, as your business, as your trading business, you should also be trying to sell consistency. Okay. Employ, practice consistency, whatever. And then the final one that we're looking at, or that I'm looking at, and this is again for the public, is MPC. So MPC, this trade is actually designed over here, and it ends up shaking out over here, but that's not really what I care about. I do know that, of course, people are in this trade, our subscribers are in this trade, and now they're just, obviously sitting pretty. You can just take your profits and throw a stop under the low, and then who cares what happens? Doesn't really matter. But I think this is actually also a pretty reasonable setup, looking for that lower high to be set, because this is the key structure now that these buyers have to get over, and they just rejected from it. This bounce is straight from the lows, and although you have a little rinky-dink higher low here, I don't really care about that. Personally, I would say anything under 156.18 would be good for a daily lower high here. And so this one has good context. It's in the golden pocket. This one has good context next week, so you can try this out right away. This, again, is not an official call. The official call was this one over here, which, again, played out here. But this is potentially a head and shoulders now. And so if you look on the weekly time frame as well, it's like it's kind of questionable. I held this weekly low, so, and there's not that much space for a lower high to be set either. So, again, this is why it's not an official call. Typically, if it's an official call, we pick on somebody weak. If you're a very skilled trader like Dan, then you care less, and you'll be aggressive with stronger names. But typically, it's easier to pick on the weaker names, like with Peak. To pick on Peak. Anyway, so if you do take that session to session setup, given the overall context, given that it's near all-time highs, it's holding up pretty well. It's in a relatively strong sector right now, the energy sector. There's space for a higher low. So knowing all of that, you just want to be more protective, right, with your profit taking. Try to get risk-free as soon as you can. Take some more profits over here if the market lets you, and then throw your stop over there and see if we can follow through with daily lower highs and lower lows. Okay, so that is pretty much it. I appreciate you guys tuning in, sharing some of your time and energy with me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope to see y'all soon. If you wouldn't mind giving us a like and subscribe if you haven't already, we would very much appreciate that. And that's it. Farewell.